The story of our film takes place in the midst of a snowstorm. A baby is found abandoned on the road, with no one around. Suddenly, a man named Jerome passes by on his way to work. He sees the baby, who looks handsome and is dressed very well, and assumes that the child comes from a wealthy family. Without thinking, he takes the baby home for his wife to take care of. Jerome is greedy and dreams that the child's family will come looking for him, and at that point, he will ask them for a large sum of money as a reward. The child grows up and becomes a young teenager, but no one ever comes to look for him, and he never sees the big reward he had been dreaming of all those years. The child is named Remi, and he lives with his adoptive mother in a simple house halfway up a hill in Javan. The mother never told Remi that he was not her real son, and they lived a simple life. He helped her with household chores and took care of the cow, which was their main source of income. Despite their poverty, they lived happily until one night filled with storms changed everything. That night, Jerome returned home and discovered that his wife had been raising the boy behind his back all those years. He became very angry and decided that the reward he had been dreaming of would not come, so he would sell the boy instead of letting him stay with them. Without caring about the boy's fate, he sold him to someone for 30 francs. What Jerome didn't know was that this boy was a real treasure. Jerome worked in a quarry, a job he had spent many years doing. However, one day, a serious accident occurred at work that left him unable to work again. He struggled to make ends meet and sent a message to his wife asking for money, hoping to compensate for his losses. Unfortunately, life was unkind to him. The accident not only left him disabled, but also took away everything he had. With no solutions in sight, his wife was forced to sell the cow, which was their only source of income. Jerome cunningly convinced his wife to take Remi with them to the municipal building to seek assistance. Remi was excited that he could help his family, but Jerome had a different plan: to take him to an orphanage and leave him there. When Remi discovered the truth, he tried to escape, and chaos ensued as the whole town started chasing them. In the end, they found themselves in a tavern, where a traveling artist named Vitalis appeared with his troupe, which included a dog performing tricks and a monkey named Lovely. When Vitalis learned Remi's story, he offered Jerome to take him into the troupe for a year in exchange for 30 francs. Out of desperation, Jerome agreed. Although he sold the boy for 30 francs, he thought he had gained something instead. Remi, who had no strength or power, was now in Vitalis's hands like a captive animal, leaving without saying goodbye to his mother, who would have done anything to prevent what happened. Thus began a new journey for Remi, who would have to face his fate alone. One night, Remi tried to untie the belt that bound him and escape, but Vitalis caught him. At that time, Vitalis explained to him that the belt wasn't for controlling him, but rather a means for a better life. Vitalis discovered that Remi's voice was beautiful when he heard him singing in the cabin. From that moment on, he began teaching Remi to sing, play the guitar, and read. Over time, Remi started to master these skills and began writing letters to his mother to tell her about his life. Remi also learned that Vitalis was once a very famous violinist. As days passed, Remi's singing talent became evident, and his voice attracted everyone's attention. One time, they had the opportunity to perform at a birthday party for a rich man's daughter. There, Remi met a beautiful girl named Lisa, who was in a wheelchair due to a rare disease called cook soldier. Quickly, a strong friendship developed between them, and Lisa was happy to finally find someone to play with. But suddenly, the police showed up and arrested Vitalis because he was using animals in his performances, which was prohibited in the city. Vitalis was sentenced to 2 months in prison. However, Remi stayed with Liza throughout his absence, comforting her about her illness, and they helped each other. Remi shared his story with Liza, showing her the blanket he was wrapped in when Jerome found him as a child. After 2 months in prison, Vitalis was released. Remi ran to him and hugged him tightly. Then, Lisa's father offered Vitalis that Remi become a personal servant for his daughter so he could live a comfortable and stable life. However, Vitalis believed that Remi was still young and needed to explore the world first. In the end, the choice was Remi's. Despite the tempting life with Lisa, Remi decided to stay with Vitalis and continue his journey. He bid farewell to Lisa and promised to visit her one day. However, luck was not on Vitalis's side, as he contracted tuberculosis during his imprisonment, and his health deteriorated significantly. Their journey became slow due to his illness. One dark night, they were trying to reach a place to rest when suddenly a great danger appeared. The monkey sensed the danger and climbed a tree, while fierce wolves surrounded them from all sides. They spotted a nearby hut and ran toward it to hide. The dog bravely decided to attack the wolves to protect Remi and Vitalis. The dog's attack bought them some time until they entered the small hut. Despite the fierce battle, the dog came out with only minor injuries. In the morning, they searched for the little monkey, but unfortunately, it had spent the night outside in the cold and sustained serious injuries. Vitalis took Remi to a hotel and spent all their money to get the best doctor in town to treat the monkey. However, the news was not promising. The doctor informed them that the monkey was in critical condition and did not have long to live. He also noticed Vitalis's severe cough and advised him to start treatment immediately. But Vitalis, knowing their funds were very low, decided to hide his condition from Remi and not tell him anything, as he was worried about the boy's fate if something happened to him. To reassure Remi and try to earn some money, Vitalis decided to put on a musical performance at the hotel. In the evening, he took out his old violin, which he hadn't touched in a long time, and began to play in front of the audience. The performance was amazing and left everyone, including Remi, in awe of his teacher's talent. After the show, people applauded warmly and gathered enough money to pay for rent and the monkey's treatment. Among the audience, an elegant woman approached them after the performance and said that the music reminded her of a famous violinist she had seen when she was younger. Vitalis felt anxious and feared she would discover his true identity, so he tried to change the subject, telling her he was just an actor playing pieces inspired by famous musicians. Despite her suspicions, the woman left them a gold coin. Remi was very happy and rushed to show the monkey the coin, but by the time he reached the monkey, he discovered that it had died from its injuries. With great sadness, they buried the monkey near the hotel. A few days later, Remi received a letter from Lisa. She tells him that her mother discovered that the blanket Remi was wrapped in when they found him is a unique mark of the noble Dorsal family in London. Lisa's mother begins searching for Remi's family through her connections. After weeks, she receives a response from a lawyer named James, who confirms that he knows Remi's true parents and that they had been looking for him all these years. Remi and Vitalis quickly travel to meet the lawyer. In the meeting, James examines the blanket and states that Remi is indeed the missing child of the noble Dorsal family. James explains that Remi was kidnapped as an infant by someone seeking revenge against the family. When they arrive at the Dorsal family home, Remi sees his real parents, who are overjoyed at his return. In the end, Mr. Dorsal admits that there was indeed a woman who had a relationship with him. When she learned he was married and that his wife was pregnant, she decided to take revenge by kidnapping their child. However, Vitalis is skeptical of the story because he knows that Remi's adoptive father said he saw a man leaving the child in a basket. Mr. Dorsal remains silent for a moment, but James begins to piece the events together, suggesting that this man could be an accomplice. Vitalis and Remi bid each other a painful farewell before James takes Vitalis in his car, handing him an envelope with money to show that he cared for Remi. After Vitalis leaves, Remi runs to his room on the upper floor and cries bitterly. That night, Remi wakes up to the sound of water dripping from the ceiling. He lifts his lantern and goes out to look, finding snow starting to fall. He gazes around his new home, but everything feels strange to him. He opens his closet, expecting to find something, but instead discovers something terrifying inside: human teeth covered in gold and a lot of stolen watches. At that moment, Remi quickly realizes that the Dorsal family is not his true family. Mrs. Dorsal arrives just in time and threatens Remi as he tries to run to the door. But James and his men stop him. He screams, telling them that the Dorsal family is not his family. However, James knew this from the start. They forcibly grab the child, and after waiting outside, Mrs. Dorsal orders her husband to kill Remi. As Mr. Dorsal raises the hammer to strike Remi, Vitalis arrives with Cabby just in time to save Remi. Cabby attacks the Dorsal son, while Vitalis manages to stop Mr. Dorsal and demands an explanation. It turns out that James is actually Remi's real uncle and wants the inheritance after the death of Remi's biological father. However, when he learned that Remi was alive, he didn't want to risk the inheritance and had Andor try to get rid of him. As the story unfolds, we learn that this isn't the first time James has ordered Remi's death. 10 years ago, he was the same person who tried to eliminate him, but couldn't bring himself to kill a small child and left him in front of the church. Vitalis pressures Mr. Dorsal to reveal Remi's father's whereabouts, and eventually, Dorsal is forced to give him the address of Mrs. Milligan. Vitalis and Remi quickly leave to find his mother, but things become difficult when the snow becomes very heavy and blocks the road. Remi falls along the way, and Vitalis carries him, protecting him from the storm. They reach a small shed and rest there for the night, but Vitalis's health worsens. In the morning, Remi wakes up in Vitalis's embrace and tries to wake him, but he doesn't move. He hears Remi's screams and nearby security guards. Remi is lucky and is rescued, but he was unconscious due to the severe cold. After a while, he opens his eyes and finds himself wrapped in a blanket. When he looks around, he sees a woman standing next to him asking about his condition. She tells him that Vitalis couldn't survive. Remi starts to cry, feeling that Vitalis was the last person in his life and considered him his only remaining family. The woman standing in front of him is Mrs. Milligan, his real mother, but she doesn't know that Remi is her son. At the same time, James Milligan is anxious and doesn't want to reveal that Remi is her son, so he asks to take him away from her. Mrs. Milligan refuses, insisting that he cannot take the child until he improves and can stand on his own. At that moment, one of the servants searches through Remi's belongings and finds a piece of paper, placing it on Mrs. Milligan's bed. When she sees it, she begins to uncover the truth. The paper contains the lyrics of a song that her mother used to sing to her when she was little, and she also sang it to Remi. Strangely, Remi had memorized this song without knowing its origin and would sing it while performing with his teacher. In that moment, Mrs. Milligan realizes that Remi is her real son and confronts him with the truth about his past. Finally, mother and son embrace each other with love and joy. Years pass, and Remi grows up to be an old man, content with his life, even though his music continues to touch the hearts of those who hear it. He decides not to pursue a musical career and instead dedicates his life to managing an orphanage, providing a home full of love for children who have no one, just as he once did. Although he spent many years searching for his family, he felt fortunate to have met many people dear to his heart. These experiences created a beautiful childhood for Remi and allowed him to share his journey with others, spreading love for life to everyone around him. If you have reached this point, I hope you subscribe to the channel and give it a like. See you in the next episode. Bye!